Bright Tuty. Every student matters.
Let us now discuss the back exercises. What is maturation? You have to define maturation as it is clearly stated in your chapter. It is a combination of both growth and development. It leads to the changes in the appearance of a person as well as the intellectual changes in the person. What is development? Development is a qualitative change that comes over as we talk about the behavioral improvement in the child owing to the changes or the exposure that a child gets due to the environment or due to the people around them. When can there be a break in the continuity of growth? There can be a break due to some illness, when there is some malnutrition, due to starvation and other environmental factors. How has Crow and Crow defined growth? You can very well see it is stated in your chapter itself. According to Crow and Crow, what is growth? So according to Crow and Crow, growth has been defined as the structural as well as the physiological changes that take place in a person. How is maturation related to growth and development? It is related to growth and development because when we say that a person has become mature, it takes into consideration not only the physical growth of a person but also the intellectual development that takes place in a person. So it is a combination of. Describe briefly the principles of growth and development. There are so many principles of growth and development that we have discussed about. We've talked about, that development, it is a continuous process. We've talked about development varies from individual to individual. The rate of growth and development are uniform. It moves from general to specific, the directional changes in development, the development, is very predictable in nature and it is spiral, not linear. So these were the principles. You are going to describe them on the basis of how many marks you get the question for. Okay? State any two relationship between growth and development. We have just now learned what is the relationship between growth and development. First, growth talks about the physical changes, something that can be measured and objectified, while development talks about the intellectual and the behavioral changes which cannot be measured. Growth stops once the person reaches the level of maturity, while development is an ongoing and continuous process and remains with you, continues to move ahead till you die. Development cannot be measured quantitatively. Indeed, development means the intellectual changes that have taken place in one, how well we've started to behave, the society, the social changes, the behavioral changes, how well we've learned to get accustomed to the environment, and all these changes cannot be measured by anyone. Thus, development is not quantitative, rather qualitative in nature. Do you agree with the statement, maturation is a sequential characteristic of biological growth and development? What does it mean? That when we talk about maturity means a change in the growth and development that takes place of a child with the changes in their ears, biological changes. Yes, we totally agree with it. A child has got very supple, flawless, soft, amazing skin. Once we start getting older, there are very, probable and apparent changes that can be seen in our body, in our hair, in our face. And these are all sequential in nature. A child at birth is not going to be born with a mustache or a beard. Rather, this is something that will take place once the child reaches puberty. The child is going to be born without teeth. We'll first have the milk teeth and then we'll have the permanent teeth. So this is all which takes place in a sequence. So yes, we do agree with it. Characteristics of maturation. There are different characteristics of maturation that we have discussed about. We know that it is the process for bringing forth the capacities, the capabilities of somebody. It is the combination of growth and development. It displays the complete behavior of an individual. It is one of the bases for which a person learns. So these are the different characteristics of maturation. What are the classification of changes proposed by Mrs. Herlock? Mrs. Herlock has classified the changes in a human body on the basis of 4 things: change in size, proportion, disappearance of the old features, and acquisition of the new features. Differentiate between growth and development. We've seen there are 10 differences between growth and development. There is an entire table which strikes a difference between them. You will write the differences on the basis of how many marks you get this question from. The factors that affect the continuity to growth. Again, we have discussed it. The factors that lead to a continuity, affect the continuity of a growth is the nutrition, health, food, environmental factors, the cultural factors, the teaching aids. All these lead to a positive growth of the person. Describe briefly growth and its characteristics. We know growth is something which is objective, is quantitative in nature. Increase in height, weight, length, size is what growth is about. What are its characteristics? That growth is something which is dependent on your heredity. It causes a physical change in you. It can stop once you reach maturity. Growth not necessarily means that one is developing. The rate of growth is very unique. It is very appropriate and predictable, and growth varies from person to person. What are the different aspects of development? We've learned there are 4 different aspects of development. Physical development, which has intellectual development in it, personality and social development, moral development, and spiritual. How can you say that maturation is both growth as well as development? We have learned about it. Maturation is a combination of both growth and development. Maturation means that a person grows both physically as well as intellectually. It brings about obvious and physical changes in one's appearances as well as the changes in the way one thinks and acts. So that is how it is a combination of. And with this, my dear students, we come to the end of this chapter. I hope the chapter was clear to you. We've discussed the back exercises, and now I shall see you all now in my next lecture.